And for 3 days in a row, we had came into a tie because what Coach Daly did, he split the team up East versus West. So Barkley, Jordan, Larry Bird, Pippen, and Patrick Ewing all played. The HIV virus that I have attained, I will have to retire from the Lakers today.
On November 7, 1991, the world stopped. Magic Johnson walked into a press conference at the Great Western Forum and announced something nobody wanted to believe. He had HIV. The man who seemed invincible, who lit up arenas with his smile and basketball magic, was facing what everyone thought was a death sentence. Reporters in the room started crying openly. His wife Cookie stood beside him, pregnant with their child, both knowing everything was about to change. The fear was instant and overwhelming. People wondered if this meant the end of his life. Some thought it meant the end of an era. But this wasn't the end of Magic Johnson. It was the beginning of something bigger than anyone could have imagined. If you're already feeling inspired by what Magic fought through, go ahead and give some hype right now. Because what he did next changed sports forever, changed business in America, and changed how we think about life itself. In 1991, the world didn't understand HIV, and the ignorance was truly profound. The virus wasn't just a medical diagnosis. It was a moral indictment in public eyes. People whispered about who got it and why. They saw images of dying patients on the news. They heard stories from a dark time when the government was completely silent while people suffered and died. In the sports world, the idea that a superhero athlete could contract HIV was impossible to imagine. Magic was the undisputed face of basketball. He had just won finals appearances with the Lakers. He was 32 years old, playing the best basketball of his entire life, and he was told he would have to retire immediately. The reaction wasn't one of hope. It was one of pure grief. A living man was being mourned while still breathing. The doctors told him that in 1991, HIV meant a countdown to inevitable death. The medicine available was harsh and limited. AZT, the primary treatment, caused severe side effects. Life expectancy was measured in months or a few years at best. Nobody had hope. Nobody imagined survival the way we understand it today. Magic was forced into exile by a virus nobody understood, and fear that was everywhere. But something important and historic happened. Magic's diagnosis changed how America thought about the virus itself. Before November 7, 1991, people believed that HIV only happened to certain groups. They thought it was a gay disease. They thought it was a drug user's disease. They thought it only happened to people they didn't know. And then Magic Johnson, a wealthy, athletic, heterosexual man, married with a family, announced he had it. That comfortable illusion shattered in seconds. Suddenly, everyone understood that HIV could happen to anyone. The world had to reckon with a new and uncomfortable reality. But Magic paid a very steep price for this education. His privacy was stripped away completely. Every detail of his life became a public spectacle. His sexual history was dissected in tabloids and magazines. He had to become not just a patient, but a national symbol. He had to become an educator while processing his own mortality and terror. This was the cruelty of 1991. Magic had to perform heroism while suffering. For a moment in 1992, it looked like things might be different. Fans voted Magic into the All-Star game. When he took the court in Orlando, he dominated the competition. 25 points, 9 assists, and he won the MVP. He hugged his opponents on the court. He proved that he could still play at the highest level. He preached education to reporters, saying that you can't get HIV from a hug or a handshake or sharing a meal. It felt like the world was ready to accept him back. It felt like the family of basketball was saying, "We believe you, we trust you, come home." But that moment of acceptance didn't last long. Almost immediately, there was devastating backlash. The Australian Olympic team threatened to boycott the games if Magic played. They said the risk, even though small, couldn't be absolutely ruled out. Other athletes said they might not take the court against him. International delegations expressed their fears. The International Olympic Committee called this response hysterical, but the damage was already done. Magic wasn't being welcomed back, he was being treated like a biological contagion. But the real betrayal came from inside the NBA. When Magic tried to return to the Lakers for the 1992-93 season, he faced fierce resistance from people he thought were his brothers. Karl Malone, a superstar power forward he had just won a gold medal with, went public with his personal fears. Malone talked about his scabs and cuts. He said he got those every night during intense games. He said he couldn't tell if the risk was real, and he couldn't play his absolute best if he was thinking about it. He said the fun would be taken out of the game. These words devastated Magic deeply. Not because Malone was medically right, the CDC said the risk was infinitesimal, but because Malone had said it out loud. The whole locker room had been thinking it, and now it was in the newspapers. Magic later admitted that Carl hurt him, that he was hurt inside, not at Carl personally, but at the fact that he wouldn't get a fair chance to play because of what had been said. This was the moment when Magic's exile became permanent and complete. He couldn't play because the people he loved didn't trust him. Science couldn't overcome fear. In November 1992, less than a year after his first retirement, Magic retired again. He did it completely voluntarily because he didn't want to be a distraction. He didn't want every game to be about whether he should be allowed to play. He didn't want to damage the league he loved deeply. He said the fun had been taken out of basketball by the steady drone of criticism. This was the lowest point in his journey. Magic Johnson, arguably the best point guard in the world, in his physical prime, was sitting on the sidelines because his own peers had decided he was too dangerous. He had been stripped of his identity as a competitor based on fears that science had already proven were completely false. This is what sad fate means. A man exiled not by illness, but by ignorance. What happened next was a transformation that nobody could have predicted. Denied the basketball court forever, Magic didn't disappear. He redirected his legendary competitive energy into business ventures. He had a brief comeback in 1996 where he played 32 games before retiring for the final time. But by then, his mind was already focused elsewhere. Magic Johnson looked at the world and saw an opportunity that others were missing entirely. He saw urban neighborhoods without quality retail options. He saw communities with significant spending power being completely ignored by major corporations. He saw market inefficiency and decided to exploit it for profit and progress. In 1998, he partnered with Starbucks. He pitched Howard Schultz on a simple idea. African Americans drank coffee, but they didn't have Starbucks in their neighborhoods. Magic opened more than 100 stores in underserved areas. But he didn't just copy the corporate model mindlessly. He adapted it to fit communities. He replaced scones with sweet potato pie. He created community gathering spaces where people lingered and socialized. By 2010, when he sold his stake, the profit was $75 million. The lesson wasn't just that Magic could make money. It was that black money is green, that black communities have spending power, that corporate America had been leaving billions on the table by ignoring these markets. After Starbucks proved the concept worked, Magic expanded aggressively into new business ventures. He partnered with Sony to build movie theaters in Baldwin Hills and other urban centers across America. Investors said this was too risky. They said crime would be a problem. They said returns would be low and unprofitable. Magic saw demand and opportunity everywhere. These theaters became among the highest grossing in the nation. He invested in urban real estate, commercial development, and community infrastructure. He was proving something the financial world had forgotten, that cities were profitable, that communities were valuable, that ignored people wanted the same things as everyone else. But Magic's real wealth engine came from somewhere else entirely. In 2015, he acquired a 60% controlling stake in Equitrust Life Insurance. This move transformed him from a celebrity franchisee into a titan of institutional finance. Insurance companies collect premiums from millions of people. This money, called the float, sits in the company before claims are paid. That float can be invested and generates massive returns. Warren Buffett built Berkshire Hathaway on this exact principle. Magic did the same thing. Under his leadership, Equitrust's assets grew from $16 billion to over $27 billion by 2026. This generated approximately $2.6 billion in annual revenue. This wasn't visible success like basketball, but it was exponential wealth generation. With this wealth and power, Magic went back to the place that had rejected him entirely. He bought teams. In 2012, he became a co-owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. The team won the World Series in 2020 and again in 2024, becoming a global brand. In 2014, he became a co-owner of the Los Angeles Sparks, the WNBA team, now valued at $235 million. He invested in LAFC, a Major League Soccer powerhouse. In 2024, he invested in the Washington Spirit, expanding into women's soccer. And in 2023, he joined the ownership group of the Washington Commanders in the NFL. His 4% stake required $242 million. By 2026, that team was valued at $7.6 billion. Magic had gone from being excluded from teams to actually owning them. He had gone from being someone peers wouldn't share a court with to being someone who signed their paychecks. This wasn't revenge, it was transformation. The man deemed too dangerous to play was now the boss. In 2024 and 2025, Magic made a move that brought his story full circle in a beautiful and meaningful way. He invested in Alchemy, a pharmacy startup company. The company focuses on building in-house pharmacies for HIV clinics and hepatitis C clinics. These facilities serve communities with the least access to healthcare services. Magic participated in a $31 million seed round alongside venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz. His reasoning was rooted in his own personal journey. He discovered that HIV medication adherence rates in Africa were better than in the United States. The problem wasn't willingness, it was the friction of navigating the American pharmacy system. People who needed medication couldn't easily get it, so Magic invested in the solution. He was turning the source of his greatest pain into a source of profit and public health improvement. This investment shows that Magic's fate is no longer defined by the virus. It's defined by his capacity to manage it, to solve it, to help others. The man who was supposed to die in 1991 is now saving lives in 2026. On January 1st, 2026, Magic Johnson rode down Colorado Boulevard as the Grand Marshal of the Rose Parade. It was raining heavily. Heavy rain soaked Pasadena that day, which only happens once every decade or so in the parade's 137-year history. The 66-year-old man who was supposed to be dead was sitting in an open car, waving to millions of people lining the streets. The parade's theme that year was the magic in teamwork, a deliberate homage to his life and career. Tournament president Mark Levin said it felt meant to be. The image of Magic in the rain is the opposite of 1991. Then he was fragile, afraid, facing what everyone thought was certain death. Now he was strong, confident, celebrating life itself. The world was celebrating him. After the parade, he threw the ceremonial coin toss at the Rose Bowl, standing at the center of a crowded stadium, performing a national duty. The man once deemed too dangerous to share a court was now honored at America's cultural center. The stigma of 1992 had been completely erased. The medical reality of Magic's life has changed as dramatically as his financial reality. In 1991, he was treated with AZT monotherapy, which was toxic and barely effective. By 2026, he benefits from modern antiretroviral therapies that render the virus completely undetectable. This is the medical miracle of the last 3 decades. Undetectable means the viral load is so low, it cannot be transmitted sexually. People with HIV who are undetectable and on treatment are living normal lifespans. Magic frequently shares updates about his health status. He says that every time he goes to the doctor and his T-cell count comes back off the charts, he knows he is good. Despite being 66 years old, he maintains the discipline of a professional athlete. He wakes up at 4 a.m. every single day. He stretches, lifts weights for an hour, does cardio for another hour. He heads to the office immediately after. He goes to bed at 8 or 8:30 p.m. unless there is a Lakers or Dodgers game. This routine isn't about vanity, it's about survival. Magic has said, "I've done my part. The medicine's done its part." The two work together. His discipline and the science have allowed him to thrive, not just survive. In his 60s, Magic has expanded his health advocacy significantly beyond HIV. He partnered with GSK to launch Sideline RSV, a campaign targeting respiratory syncytial virus in older adults. This shift is significant because it shows that Magic is no longer defined solely by HIV. He is aging like anyone else naturally ages. He worries about RSV like any senior citizen would. He is normalizing his aging process in public. This is the ultimate victory over a virus that was supposed to deny him the privilege of growing old. He didn't just beat HIV, he beat the stigma that came with it. He beat the fear. He beat the idea that his life should be limited. He simply lived and thrived. What they did to Magic Johnson was sad and deeply cruel. The world at the time acted from fear and ignorance. His peers rejected him based on risks that didn't exist. His country turned him into a symbol when he just wanted to be a player. His body betrayed him with a virus that science wasn't ready to fight. But what he did with it, that's what makes him Magic. He transformed tragedy into power. He turned exile into ascension. He took the stigma and made it irrelevant through success. He built a $1.5 billion empire while living with HIV. He became a billionaire entrepreneur. He bought the teams that wouldn't let him play. He became the boss. He is now a voice for elder health, for community investment, for the possibility of life after disease. He rode through the rain as a grand marshal. He threw a coin at a Rose Bowl. He stands at the center of American culture, not as a victim, not as a cautionary tale, but as a legend. The tragic fate that seemed inevitable in 1991 became a triumph by 2026. This is the story of Magic Johnson, from the death sentence they predicted to the life he built instead.